how to deal with bullying. We deal with it, which is my point in this series. Go through it. We don't pacify it. We don't avoid inconvenient truths, and we don't half-arse it. We look for the patterns. So take what you want, leave what you don't. My name's Poppy. I'm a psychotherapist, psychologist, coach. I've worked for 30 years globally with all different kinds of people. And I've been bullied a lot. And my agenda here is the hope that we come together to normalise pain, speak to it, which is why I'm sharing what's happened with me recently. However, to me, more importantly, that we get our courage on about actually dealing with things so they don't keep repeating. So if you have experiences with bullying, there will be, in my mind, a lot of reasons for that. One is people bully because they're intimidated, they're in fear, and they will find themselves a victim who is someone that triggers them because they see or perceive us, the other person, doing something they cannot do, will not do, or have been taught in some kind of way that way of being is wrong and bad, so they're repeating what they know. My opinion is it's a backward compliment when people bully, and what I mean by bullying is when someone attempts to get leverage over you so that you do it their way. There's a lot of context in life as to why we behave in certain ways. We all get triggered by different things. And in my mind, it offers enormous generosity of spirit, which I think the world can have a massive dollop of at this point, when we allow ourselves to look at the story behind the behaviour. Because it will shock us all. I was a group therapist for the first part of my career, still do that sometimes. It will shock you when we're around people and we hear their stories. Suddenly you feel very loving towards people because it's very disarming to have an insight into someone's pain. Whatever it is that describes the makeup of those people, and we're just a bunch of behaviours, humans. There's love and there's fear, as I keep saying. If it's not coming from love, it's coming from fear. So two things happen, in my opinion, with bullying. One thing is people silence themselves. And what often happens is people are mercilessly bullying of themselves. So we tend to attract from other people our own behaviours in someone else. We attract who we are rather than what we want. So for me, if we want to ace this life, we get to be very mindful of who we're being and how we're being. Because the personality is simply made up of what we think, what we feel, and what we do. So we can change our personality. And that's not to say we should. However, there will be things in your life you would like, and those things will require you, if you don't have them now, an upgrade in how you be, for you to evolve to get more conscious in a certain kind of a way. What people also do with bullying is they get aggressive, act out, fight back in a way that causes more division. And I've done both of those things. And I've seen both done desperately, where people shut up and put up to the point that they are a chronic victim, a career as a victim, which usually involves learned helplessness, where you feel it's personal to you, it will never change, and it affects all areas of your life, and that is a learned behaviour. Equally, I've seen people, and I have been, incarcerated for fighting back. People get pathologized a lot in our life, meaning labels stuck on them. And then oftentimes we over-identify with that label when that experience we've had or that behavior is one part of us. Your dis-ease that's coming out in some kind of symptom of behavior is one part of us. All is forgiven. Where is it? It's in Arabic. It's a long story. However, that's what I know. When we start looking at our own ability to forgive ourselves for what we're doing in life, we all do bad things at some point. Have you forgiven yourself yet? Have you forgiven others yet? Maya Angelou said, and it's not to say that we should, bear with it please, because this is your heart, your mind, your body, and your longevity, because we cannot separate physical and emotional health. The two are inextricably linked. Maya Angelou said, forgiveness is giving up the hope that it would have been different. That's not to excuse something someone's done. What that is to do is to be able to look at a reality, which is X, Y, and Z has happened. It cannot and will not change. What can change is our association with it. The thoughts we have about it, the feelings we have about it, and the behaviour that we have around it. Because a lot of people, we build a whole identity on the back of experiences that we have. So you could check for you. How do you identify as a person? Are you someone who never gives up? Are you someone who is a victim? That someone's always going to do it wrong. Someone's always going to try and get leverage over you and you are disempowered. Are you someone who is bullish and you're out there looking to defend yourself because you're on the defense ready because you do not feel safe in this world, and that's what bullies do? Ironically, please don't let it fool you when you see people chest beating. If you sense someone's behaviour is less than loving, they're in fear. Again, it's not to excuse it. However, there's a middle road. There's a road less travelled. And in my mind, it's one where we skill up and get confident with navigating our ships. We understand who we are and how we are. We have compassion for ourselves and we hold ourselves to account to be the fullest representation of the person you are. You at your optimum, safest, most grounded, most happy, most free. This is why I'm speaking to inalienable rights. Rights that no one can take from you. The right to freedom of speech, for example. The right to be happy and healthy. The right to be safe. All of the things that we require that I've learned in order to be safe and grounded and thriving come from within. Nobody gives us our inalienable rights. They're God-given. We arrive on planet Earth with them and nobody can take them from you. People will attempt to. I've been told that many times. I've been put behind bars in many different ways. People have attempted to do that stuff. Attitude, though, is our most precious commodity, in my opinion, and time. So if you've been watching this whole series, I very much am grateful for your time, and I hope it's being useful so far. Attitude. Some of the strongest people I know have been through the worst experiences. We're resilient. And please, if you had a lot of trauma and a lot of difficulty, a lot of bullying, please know, and I have it on good authority because I'm a researcher, that most people have a story that would bring you to your knees with tears. Most people, if not all people. Actually, I'd say all people. I've never met someone who hasn't, basically, got a story that would have most of us sob if we allowed ourselves to be with that person in their truth. So someone here, and God love you, I love you for saying this. I love you anyway because you're amazing. He said, well, we're hearing context about you, Poppy, because I'm telling you a story about me being bullied recently. And he said, do we get to hear the context of the other person? And unfortunately, at this point, unless I meet him again, we don't. What we've got, and it's a fantastic, and I really, really respect your question, because a lot changes when we have context. So what I can tell you about this man who attacked me verbally, and I'll tell the story, and it's coming. He's got form. He's done it before. However, I've got form, meaning I've done it before, which is I raised my voice. Without context, it's difficult to get a full measure of what's going on. So we're unreliable narrators a lot of the time because we have So many triggers, so much stat, so much assumption, so much fear, so much running in our mind. For example, for me, I was thinking nobody helped me. However, I didn't ask for help. And I don't know that to the untrained eye, it would have looked like I needed any. So this is why I'm really calling for us to consider our own behaviour. If we want things to change, we get to have a look at, how am I talking to me? What am I reflecting back to other people? What am I showing people? A lot of us don't know how we're coming across, which is why I'm very straight with people about the energies we leave one another. This is why I'm such a fan of us learning psychology, getting really savvy. Do you know how you're perceived by the general person? How you hold yourself, your eye contact, the words you use. If you fear conflict, then you're going to be sending some very powerful signals that everyone can feel. Some people will be conscious of it, some won't. What I do know, context, which is this huge part of the story, is this man, whilst he was very aggressive and so on, his pupils were massively dilated. And I had thought he was a member of the public. He was a security guard in a shop I was in. And I didn't assume he was on drugs. However, what I did assume is something's going on physiologically, that he's not in his full being. Something stimulating him beyond reason. And sometimes that can be enjoying the fear response in someone else. People's eyes can go black when they are particularly sadistic. Can go black, not always. I was mindful of it, and what I have found out, the only bit of context really I have, is he's addicted to energy drinks. That's a lot of context in my opinion, because that is a massive drug that this person, I've been told he drinks them all day long. And he was drinking it at the time and sort of shaking around, and, you know, Red Bull gives you wings. This guy was flying around, you know, cosmic stuff. So I have a lot of compassion for that, because he was drugged at the time, chronically so it seems. That's some context. And it would be a real call again for us to have a look at, why on earth are we doing this stuff? And I tell you why, is we're looking for stimulation and distraction chronically on repeat. Because in my opinion, we're so fearful of being who we are. Because there's so much to seduce us away from who we are. People are making a mint of your attention on something else. Demonstrated by the fact, you know, what's the 0.1 second or something TikTok. People are known to scroll so quickly. So it's like this series, if you're being chronically bullied, does anybody want to put the time in to watch video on video? Probably not, which is what's very sad. However, I can give you tips and tricks. Tips and tricks don't fix anything, which is why you're on wherever it is scrolling to find the solution. We don't often want to put the work in because it means confronting the truth, not just convenient ones. So thank you, my love. I really appreciate you saying that about the context of this other person. A lot changes when we look for it. And to me, it's a mark of a very mindful, compassionate person who's got a lot of humility, who will look for context before we make judgments about stuff. A lot is said by people who have an agenda, and it's said very convincingly. And in this world, we have this echo chamber of, you know, this genocidal news system that we have in media. It's genocidal, killing people, and very much responsible for people having issues with their mental health and so on. And people are using you and the fact that you don't want to go deep to make money and to hurt other people. So there's one thing I know, and I'd love you to do similar, is if you were in trouble, someone's talking about you, I would come straight to your mouth and find out what you're saying about it. I would not be repeating stuff. I would not be sharing stuff. I would be doing my due diligence to find out, this is another human, my brother or sister with a beating heart, that's having whatever it is kind of attack. And I'd like to either move on and get on with my life and not get involved, or if I'm going to get involved, is find out from the actual person what they have to say about it, and then have a look around the place and see what else is going on, and do my absolute utmost to understand my brother or sister, because if it's not loving what I'm feeling, it's going to be fear, it's going to be pain, it's going to be the rest of humanity type stuff where something's going wrong. And if I sense that there's any kind of silencing happening on their part, or any screams and appeals in some kind of way, something isn't fair, if that person is largely alone and there's groups of people, then they will be the victim, because that's what happens. Victims are often on their own. Bullies are in gangs. There are plenty of gangs. If we look at the news system, the media, the government, there's plenty of gangs there. So when and if you hear things, please, I ask of you, how would you like the public to be if you were being put on the stand publicly and people talking to you about you via whatever, a feed? What would you like us to do if there's a story out there about you? I'd suggest we do more of that. See you soon.